Sonny Liston.
The title of heavyweight champion of the world is the single most prestigious title in the world. It says you are the toughest guy on the planet. And Sonny was absolutely the embodiment of the toughest guy on the planet.
Unwilling or unable to reach out to the public, the new champ returned to the only structured environment he ever knew, this time as a visitor.
He went to Jeff City to visit his buddies. Sonny didn't forget where he come from.
Sonny was very, very down to earth. And when he wasn't fighting, he would hang with the local because that's what he liked.
Liston was a target of law enforcement, especially where he was ticketed for driving his $8,000 Cadillac too slow.
It's quite a feather in the cap of local policemen if they'd be pulling over a world champion. They weren't worried about civil rights or fair treatment.
In the summer of 1962, Liston went to the British Isles on an exhibition tour. He left his mark wherever he went.
Sonny went drinking with these Scots. He pulled out a cigar, and one of them said, "Sonny, please put it out." And Sonny told him what he could do with the cigar, and the Scot said, "Sonny, put the cigar out now, or you're going to go out that window." He put the cigar out, the Scot jumped up, put his arms around him, and they went right out having a party.
I recall some gentleman I was doing business with in Scotland saying, and every female he came across, he would grab their breasts. And this is not looked upon with favor in Glasgow. I said, well, it's not looked upon with favor pretty much anywhere.
Back in America, Liston moved to Denver in 1963. No matter that he was the heavyweight champion, he couldn't shake the police.
You have to give that to Sonny. He did a lot of himself, but he was a marked man.
Some of the police were terrible to him. I mean, they harassed him, towed his car for being parked too far away from the curb when it wasn't. Anytime he tried to run in Denver in various parks, he was followed there also and harassed.
He had problems in Denver, he had trouble in St. Louis, he had trouble in Philadelphia. There was no such thing as rehabilitation for Sonny. They wouldn't allow it.
It wasn't for me, Sonny Liston, to be just a daily champion, trying to find suitable opponents.
With the theory of Cassius Clay on the rise, Liston again dispatched Patterson in the first round in their rematch at Las Vegas in July of 1963.
At the end of the fight, Clay was ringside. He burst into the ring, ranting and raving. That was the first real experience that Liston had of this mad guy.
7 months later, Liston surrendered his crown to Clay in a shocking upset.
And I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
But if the fight spurred controversy, the rematch would prove even more mystifying, as the ex-champion prepared to win back his crown.
Liston trained for this rematch like he'd never trained in his life. Whatever age he was, and there was every chance he was older than he said he was, it took a massive amount out of him.
He had been in shape for the original date of the fight. Ali had a hernia and the fight was postponed.
He tried to reach that peak of condition. It was felt that it was almost too great a jump to do it again. And that's where his age told.
Here behind me on this windy, cool...
Clay says, and says openly, that you're afraid of him. Once he told me you're a coward. What's your reaction?
Well, if I'm a coward, I would run from him. The coward always run.
Behind the hype of name-calling lay a serious concern. On February 25, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. The champion, who had joined the Nation of Islam and adopted a new name, had reason to feel afraid.
There have been reports of black Muslim threats against the life of Muhammad Ali, as the champion prefers to be known, and the police searched all packages, suitcases, and even women's handbags.
In the wake of the death threats, the fight had been moved from Boston to a U.S. Maine.
The rumors of forces coming to kill these people, Malcolm X's people. Here we were in some little gym because they worried about all those things.
There was fear that there would be some kind of war going X's faction and the Nation of Islam. Liston isn't that great a guy, and he's connected with organized crime, but that's an evil we know. I'd rather have the evil I know than the evil that I don't know. The public really would rather see Liston win.
In the final days before the fight, Liston, if only by default, was lifted by a measure of public support.
Protect yourself at all times. Good luck. Shake hands. Come out, fight.
May 25th, 1965 was supposed to have been Liston's date with redemption. Instead, history wrote a different story.
From Lewis, Maine, the world's heavyweight boxing champion. Unusual locale tonight, but definitely all the way.
Went wrong with this fight. It was supposed to have been held in Boston. Ali had a hernia. Robert Goulet couldn't remember the words to the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early night?
Which kind of symbolized how things were going to go.
The big fight, the big night, round number one.
A little over a minute into the round, Ali lands his punch to the jaw. Liston goes down.
Right hand shot on the chin.
Wasn't that hard a punch, but Liston was coming in and he was off balance. It was a combination of surprise and force of the punch.
The shots you don't see is the shots that get you out of it. There's no phantom punch. He hit him.
Liston went down, whether he was hit or not. Jersey Joe Walcott is trying to get Ali into the neutral corner. Ali's doing his thing. He finally gets him there, and he starts counting.
Ultimately, he gets up, and all of a sudden, Jersey Joe Walcott, the referee, is called over to the side of the ring by Nat Fleischer of Ring Magazine. More than 10 seconds.
He didn't know whether to count. He didn't know whether to stop the fight. He just was absolutely confused.
Walcott turns back to these two guys who are about to fight again and says 10.
He calls the fight off. That's crazy. Who's Nat Fleischer? He's just another guy at ringside. He had no authority whatsoever.
The timekeeper counted out Liston in 1 minute of the first round. The winner, still the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali.
When the comedy of errors ended, Liston, as always, was the butt of cruel jokes and widely accused of taking a dive.
He probably could have gotten up and, for some reason, went on strike at the count of 4 and decided, the hell with the world, I ain't...
Ali standing over him, saying, "Get up, you bum. Nobody will believe this. Get up and fight."
In his mind, he's saying, hey, I got enough money to air condition hell now. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to lay there.
I told Mutt before the fight, he says, my people don't give a about me. He says, they don't even care about me anymore.
Either he couldn't get up or he wouldn't get up. In either case, it was time for him to find another line of work.
For those who did not believe that Ali's punch had enough steam to flatten Liston, the search for an answer led to Elijah Muhammad's Nation of Islam.
Is it possible that some people from the nation visited Sonny Liston and said, if you don't lose this fight, we would kill you? Is it possible, if that happened, that Sonny Liston would have been intimidated by it? Yep, I think it is.
I think that second fight away. You say you win and you lose, you know? And I say in the first round? Nah.
Years later in the Las Vegas casino, I asked him. I said, did you go into the tank for that? He said, gee, man, that guy was crazy. He said, I didn't want anything to do with him. And the Muslims were coming up. He said, who needed that? And I went down. I wasn't hit.
So much of a fighter is that internal mechanism, you know, how he sees himself.
It's not a matter that he lost. You can survive losing as an athlete. You can't survive losing as an athlete if you don't seem to have any honor and you don't seem to have honestly put forth an effort. And that's the image that Liston had.
Disgraced and unwanted, Liston went to Sweden in 1966, fighting 4 times in 10 months. Then, in May of 1967, he returned to his home in Las Vegas. He won 10 more bouts, 9 by knockout, before he sparred Leotis Martin in December of 1969.
He was the hardest pitcher maybe I ever fought. And there were the base afterwards were the bravest guy he ever fought. His manager is.
He collected 13 fourth fight with Jerry Corster, and he ended up with nothing from the fight.